Your new Royal Typewriter represents a startling advance in typing convenience and comfort. It truly sets a new standard of typewriter performance. Your typewriter was designed to help you. 4 particularly important easy writing features of your new typewriter. Magic margin, the most sensational improvement ever placed on a typewriter. Royal has done away with hand margin settings. Margins are set automatically on your Royal typewriter. You merely position the carriage. Let Magic Margin do the rest. Easy on the eyes, a new top plate design conceals the movement of the type bars. Shift Freedom eliminates the up and down movement of the carriage. New non-glare finish kills reflections. Result, no movement, no glare, no distractions to cause eye strain. The FingerFlow keyboard offers a new conception of balanced, functional engineering and smart appearance. You have the first completely enclosed typewriter, all mechanisms protected from dust and dirt for long service. Touch control. Without stretching or straining, you can instantly and uniformly adapt the tension of the keys to your exact finger pressure. Good day, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Well, in 1947, television was barely getting started. You might have seen an advertisement about typewriters maybe in a movie theater, but probably not. Most likely you'd be reading advertisements in the newspaper and magazines. This is a 1947 Royal KMM. It's a newcomer to my collection. I've collected a lot of typewriters over the years by finding them in thrift stores and antique stores, maybe buying them from the local Craigslist. I've had a few typewriters given to me. But over the years, I've also purchased reconditioned typewriters from local typewriter repair shops. My 1970s French-made Hermes 3000, my first Royal Mercury, and now this 1947 Royal KMM. I bought this recently from John Lewis, Mechanical and Antique Repair here in Albuquerque. Totally gone over. A wonderful operating machine now. It was something that I was really wanting in my collection. I have portables and some ultra portables, but didn't really have a full-size upright standard machine, what I call a workhorse machine for serious typing. And I'd kind of been on the lookout for one of those of the right vintage and the right feature set and appearance every time I would go visit John at his shop. And this one happened to have been there, and it's really kind of the one I was looking for, really. So Royal KMM, there is a long history of Royal typewriters. The basic mechanism inside this machine is very much like the Royal Model 10 that goes back to the early part of the 20th century. But Royal continuously updated the designs and added new features and changed the styling of the body and everything like that. KMM, so K stands for Key Set Tabulator. The M stands for Magic Margin. This one came out in 1947 according to this serial number database, so right after World War II. It's a beautiful machine, but it has a lot of the familiarities of the old Royal 10. Starting with the paper guide, which is movable back and forth, and the paper guide scale, which you can use to reference the position of the paper guide to. Then what we might call the paper bail, Royal calls the paper lock. And the paper lock has its own scale, along with the rollers on the paper lock, and then the platen roller they call the cylinder. And of course, behind the platen cylinder is the paper table itself. On the right side of the carriage, we have the paper lock handle and the automatic paper lock and the paper release handle and the right magic margin setting. The right carriage release button is just inboard of the right platen knob. making it very convenient to operate as you might turn or move the carriage. They call that the right cylinder release, the right cylinder knob. Full-length cylinder scales run the entire length of the carriage, and they line up with the scales on the paper lock itself. We have the hinged top cover. We have the ribbon color change and stencil lever that goes between red and blue and stencil, but you can't put it in the stencil position unless you push the stencil stop lever to the left, and then it allows you to set it to stencil. That's a nice setting that keeps you from accidentally pushing it to the stencil mode when you're going from red back to blue. Tabulator set key, the tabulator key itself. On the right side of the machine, the touch control pointer, the touch control dial, the touch control knob. By turning this knob, the dial moves from 0 to 6. Margin release key, right shift key, space bar. Left shift key, operating keys, shift key lock, backspace key, tabulator clear key, ribbon reverse manual, and ribbon feed release for manually winding the ribbon. Card and writing line scale, card holder levers, and card holder release levers. Left cylinder knob and variable line spacer at the center of the knob, line spacing and carriage return lever, line spacing selector between 1, 2, and 3 line spacing disengage lever, and the left magic margin setting lever, the left carriage release button, and the rear tabulator rack with stops, and the left magic margin stop and the right magic margin stop. The tab clear button on the left side of the front panel is used to clear either individual tab stops or all of the tab stops. By pressing and holding the tab clear and then moving the carriage, all of the tab stops can be erased at once. The magic margins can be adjusted simply by, in this case for the left margin, pulling the left magic margin lever forward, and then the carriage can simply be moved to wherever you would like the new margin to be located, and then you simply push the magic margin lever back, and now the carriage has been relocated to the new margin position. The right magic margin can be set in the same way. Simply pull the right magic margin lever forward, and then the carriage can be moved wherever you would like the new margin to be located at, and then you push the magic margin lever back, and now the margin has been set in the new location. The right carriage release lever is probably the most convenient one that I've ever seen on a typewriter. It's this lever just inboard of the right platen knob, and it's just very natural to grip the knob like this and use your thumb to move the carriage back and forth. It's super easy and very, very ergonomic. The left carriage release lever is just a little bit further inboard of the left knob right here. So you kind of grip the knob with your fingers and reach your thumb over, and it becomes very easy to move the carriage manually with your left hand as well. I like the height and shape and position of the carriage return lever. It's situated just a little bit above the ribbon cover, and it has an extension that goes out about to the round down front edge of the cover, but not too much further. Doesn't stick up too high, like for instance on the Hermes 3000, its lever sticks up too high really. But I really like this curve here on the lever. You can kind of reach up with your left hand and quickly kind of karate chop that lever back toward the right, and then just continue typing. It makes for a super ergonomic kind of a motion. So I especially like the layout of this keyboard. I usually have an issue with the A key, hitting it with my left pinky finger. My finger is a little bit curved anyways, and I tend to roll the finger a little bit as I hit the A. Well, on this machine, the caps lock key is up above between the second and third rows, so I just don't interfere with it when I'm doing my A key. And this is one of the few typewriters that I really don't have any problems at all with the A, which means I can easily touch type on it much better than other machines. And of course the shift lock is closer now to the Q, but I don't use the Q as often as the A because the A is the third most frequent letter in English, and so it's just a really nice layout. I might also mention that the rectangular keys like the backspace and the shift and the tab key, they are really nice and wide and easy to hit. I really like the ergonomics of that. They've done a really good job on designing the keyboard layout on the KMM. These keycaps, or the tops of the key levers, have a nice dished-in, rounded shape to them. And of course, John Lewis did a really great job of replacing all the legends here on the keys themselves, so they look just brand new. So as I said earlier, I bought this from John Lewis here in Albuquerque. John is about 78 years old, and he's been repairing typewriters for over 50 years. He was actually trained by Royal. When I went over to his shop on the week that I bought this, his workbench is right up front, in the front of the shop, so you can see him working and talk to him directly. He had another similar kind of Royal taken apart down to the bare chassis. The bare chassis was sitting on his bench. The carriage was removed. He was actually working on the escapement on that particular machine. One of the pinion gear had a couple broken teeth. But he takes these down to the last part almost and reconditions them and cleans them up and gets them running in good working order. And it's really interesting to see him able to tear these machines down to that level and bring them back to where they should be. What I like about this Royal typewriter really is about the touch. It is the fact that I can touch type on this machine really nicely and comfortably. I also like the functional shape of the keys. They are round and they have the metal chromed rings, but the tops of the key faces are dished in, so they're more comfortable than a flat key face. But they still retain that old style of this kind of key that looks like pre-World War II. So it really is kind of the best of both worlds, I think, in terms of the appearance as well as the comfort and the functionality. And like Royal's advertising literature that I tried to present earlier, the four corner keys, the rectangular keys, backspace, tabulator, and shift, they really are nicely positioned in the four corners of the keyboard, and they are large enough to easily hit without any problems. I like a lot of the features on the Royal that are designed for speedy operation by professional typists. For instance, when you're switching the ribbon color selector from red to blue, it prevents you from mistakenly going too far and going into the stencil setting. This other little button next to it is the unlock for the stencil. You have to purposefully push that to the left and then it lets you go to stencil. So that's just another setting that keeps you from making a mistake as you're rapidly using the machine. I also like this manual ribbon reversing lever if you have to use it. Of course, the ribbon does reverse on its own fine, but I also like this little touch here. This lever next to it enables you to unlock the ribbon drive system manually, so if you wanted to manually feed a ribbon, or if you're changing the ribbon and putting on a new ribbon, you can unlock the spools and just rotate them by hand to wind on the new ribbon. That's a really cool feature. Like with all these Royals, dating all the way back to the Royal 10, when you move the carriage toward the left, the ribbon advances. Now, in regards to the advertising literature that I read from the user's manual or owner's manual, there is obviously some marketing stuff built into that, right? They're trying to ham up or inflate some of the features like any company would. But I really do like the appearance of the enclosed look, where they're trying to restrict as much as possible your vision of the type bar's movement. And they do indicate in this manual that seeing the type bars moving is a form of visual distraction, and they're trying to eliminate that. So you have the fully enclosed or almost fully enclosed ribbon cover with these secondary little shield plates inside that do a pretty good job of eliminating the visual distraction of flying type bars. It's interesting to see the kind of human engineering they put into these machines to make them as quick to operate and efficient to operate for professional typists. And regarding ease of use of the machine, even the idea that it has a low glare finish, I think is interesting, because you could say on the one hand that's just advertising gimmickry, but on the other hand you could think, well, maybe there's something to that, because you don't want a shiny surface to interfere with your looking at your copy that you're actually typing. So in that regards, I can see kind of that, and I certainly love the finish on this black typewriter. This crinkle finish really is beautiful. The thing about these Royal KMMs and similar models of this era was they made millions of them. And there's a lot of machines out there for parts, so there's a ready supply of used machines to recondition and repair these and keep them running. But I was also thinking about some of the writers or authors who've used Royal KMMs over the years or similar kinds of Royals. I'm reminded of for instance, the American writer David McCullough, who you might have featured in the movie California Typewriter, uses a machine very much like this to write with, and he's done so for decades and decades. So certainly is a workhorse typewriter. Well, since most of my other typewriters in my collection are portables or ultra portables, I really had to think long and hard before I decided to get this machine in my collection, but I certainly needed a place to put it. These typewriters don't come with cases, so you can store them in your closet or under your bed or wherever you like to store your typewriters when they're not being used. You have to have a place to set this. So I did have a typing table. The KMM sets on it. John Lewis was nice enough to include a typewriter cover with this machine. So it has a cover, a dust cover. But I also see in the future, when we return to having public typewriter gatherings here in Albuquerque, I hope to be able to find a box that I can use to safely transport this machine around if I want to actually take it out somewhere. Keeping in mind, the main thing about these standard machines is they don't have carriage locks. What you want, therefore, is to put it in a box where it's kind of snug and the width of the box keeps the carriage immobilized for safe transit. Even by automobile, right? You could take a sharp turn, have to slam on your brakes or whatever, and that carriage could be slammed hard enough that it might damage the escapement. So you have to think about that. So it's not intended to be a portable machine, but still, I would like to take this out to typewriter gatherings once in a while. So yeah, I'm going to get me some kind of a transport box, and maybe even you could call it a storage box. But pretty much I see this typewriter sitting on the table and being used quite a bit. So the KMM has the magic margin feature. And I was thinking about it in relation to how the later Royal Quiet Deluxe magic margin works, and how the Hermes 3000's margin works, which is similar to a magic margin. And I noticed that I really like the way the KMM's magic margin works better than those other two models. So with the Quiet Deluxe, you have to press and hold the magic margin button and then operate the carriage movement and kind of move the carriage around to where you want that margin to be set, and then release the margin button. With the Hermes 3000, it's a little bit more bulky to operate because you have to operate, again, both the carriage release button and the margin button simultaneously to move the carriage and then release the margin set button. But on the KMM here, really what you do is you simply pull its lever forward and then move the carriage separately to where you want that margin to be, and then flip the lever back. It's a lot easier, actually. And also, because it's not a push button that pushes straight down, there's less of a chance that you're going to mistakenly set the margin wrong. Like with the Quiet Deluxe, has the buttons that push down from on top, and you can easily set something, like a booklet or a notebook or a pad of paper. You can set something on top of the Quiet Deluxe and accidentally push the button, just the weight of something sitting on it. You don't have that problem with the KMM here. It's a little bit less prone to accidental margin mistakes. Full-size standard typewriters may not be for everybody. If your primary interest in typewriters is creativity and writing, there's no better kind of a machine than one of these mid-20th century full-size standard Royals. They really are great machines for writing, probably about the best, really, if you think about it. Considering their mechanical legacy goes all the way back to the early parts of the 20th century, these mechanisms have just been refined over the years, and they really do have a great touch. And it's great to throw that carriage back and have it glide to the stop at the left margin while you continue to type. They really are fast typers and effortless. And they've done a lot of work over the years to make them as effort-free as you can have on a manual typewriter. So there's a lot of reasons to like these full-size typewriters for actual writing. And I encourage you guys, if you're interested in actually doing a lot of writing with a typewriter, you may not have the room for a whole bunch of standard upright full-size typewriters like this, but you really only need one. One good one like this will get you through, and you could spend years writing with it. And so that's my word of the day here is it's fun to collect a lot of other kinds of portable typewriters, but it's also fun to have one great workhorse standard machine. How about you guys? Do you guys have standard typewriters in your collection as well as portables, and what do you think about them? Hey, drop a note down below. I'd love to have a dialogue with you about standard typewriters. And until next time, you stay well, stay creative, and have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye for now.